Hello and welcome to the magic of fishing. Today you join me on a magical winter's dawn, and I'm still pinching myself because I'm on what is arguably the most famous barbel peg in the country. Just above me is CROMWELL WEIR, right at the top of Collingham Angling Association stretch of the tidal Trent. You may remember I came here back in the autumn of 2024, fished it for the first time and had the time of my life. 3 fantastic days, a real mini fishing adventure where I broke my barbel PB 3 times, caught many double figure fish and really was blown away by the place. I did get the conditions just right on that day. It's a river that takes a lot of new water, and when the river's coming up, the barbel can go on the munch. Today, we're still in February as I film this. The river is low, but we've got a big storm forecast to come in this afternoon, which should dump some rain in and bring some low pressure and some cloudy skies. And most importantly, the weather's been warming up. It's been getting milder after a couple of weeks of really chilly sub-zero or around zero temperatures. So I'm counting on the fact that the water might just be starting to warm up by a degree or two, and we've got this big low pressure system coming in. But I'm here for a couple of days. I'm back in the same fantastic Airbnb just on the outskirts of Collingham village that I stayed in last time. And if you've seen any of those 3 videos on the channel, or if you're a subscriber and a fan of the magic of fishing, you'll be able to appreciate just how excited I am to be back here, back on the banks of my beloved Trent. And even though it's winter, in with a chance of a barbel or 2 and maybe even a real giant. This place is famous for big fish as well as numbers of fish. And there are some serious current ripping through out there. I've just cast out a boilie on the right hand rod, just on a straight lead with some paste around the boilie and the lead. 5-ounce lead to try and hold out there. Let's keep everything crossed, but it's just a privilege to be here. And it really is fishing almost unlike anything I've done before. You know how I'm always saying variety is the spice of fishing, and today will be another new experience. I have had to invest some money. I've bought myself 2 new barbel rods, lucky boy. A couple of Drennan specialist barbel rods, 2¼ pound test curve, which is, it's stronger than the carp rods I used to use as a young man. Things have changed in fishing, but this pursuit of big barbel and big rivers has become a real passion for many, and after catching a few of them last year, they've haunted my dreams too. I'm desperate to feel that insane bend in my rod again, that power that they've got, and not know whether it's, a Trent beast or any size barbel is welcome. So I've bought a couple of strong rods with me, which are needed just to punch the big weights required to hold bottom in such current. But I've got my same good old carp reels from back in my 20s and early 30s when I still had time to do a bit of carp fishing. They've got 14-pound line on, so there's no messing around in these kind of conditions for these kind of fish. But it's nice to see the sun that's rising behind me just starting to brighten the far bank. I'm a sucker for punishment when it comes to weather and fishing this winter, but as I've said, this YouTube channel really has kept me coming out week after week, trying to provide you folks at home with a bit of entertainment as well as all kinds of memorable experiences for me. And I suspect today is going to be right up there in the unforgettable sessions I've had on the Trent and will have on the Trent, and I mean that whether I catch or not. I never dreamt throughout most of my life that I'd get to fish below Cromwell Weir. You see it in magazines, you see it in Angling Times, you used to read about it in Angler's Mail. You see one or two other YouTubers who've been lucky enough to fish it, and you certainly see some of the fish that get caught here online or in the angling press. And you know me, I'm not obsessed with the size of fish or the numbers of fish I catch. The whole point of my book, The Magic of Fishing, and the whole point of this channel is just to celebrate fishing for fishing's sake and all the enjoyment you can get just from being out on the bank, surrounding yourself in nature. But it is exciting to come and fish somewhere so legendary in the world of fishing, full stop, never mind barbel fishing. And I must thank this visit to Kai. I talk about him a fair bit in the previous videos that I filmed at Collingham, but it's such a fantastic club. The website is full of information for anglers that want to come and fish here on a day ticket, and you can get those on the bank for a tenner. If you want to come and fish pegs 1A to number 4, which are the ones that get you closest to the weir where I am today, you can book it. You book online, anyone can come and fish here, but it's not the cheapest place to fish because it can be prolific on its day. You can have some of the best fishing of your life if you're lucky enough to get this place on the right conditions. But it is available. I've not come to some exclusive syndicate, but I must thank Kai again, not only for all his usual advice, but for getting me onto this spot for a day. But to be on this peg, on the sandy gravel bank with the waves lapping the shore, and knowing how many big barbel swim out there, it really is magic. Just picked a far bank marker just to give me some vague sense of accuracy. You have to have some faith fishing big wild waters like this. I learned that last time. Yeah, I think faith is a good word. Even for someone like me who grew up fishing matches on the Trent, heading down with my granddad from my native Sheffield, and later on getting on a coach with my fellow club members from Dronfield Woodhouse. Sports and Social Club, my childhood club, which I'm still a member of today. There's only about 10 of us left, but we'll still be going on another summer of matches all around Sheffield. In fact, some will be in Nottinghamshire, where I am today. But even for someone like me who's fished the Trent on and off all of his life, somewhere like Cromwell Weir still feels pretty daunting in terms of the tackle you need and the bait, just the size of the water, pace of the water. But just as I learned to fish the stretches further down with Collingham last autumn and caught some fantastic fish, it's all about getting some advice. If you've never fished somewhere before, as I say, there's plenty on the website. You can watch YouTube videos like this. But if you do want to try something like this yourself, you know, have some faith. It's obviously a lot easier once you've caught your first fish, and who knows whether we'll get lucky today and tomorrow, but I'm lucky enough to have caught some big fish further downstream, and that just gives me the ability to cast out into these wild waters and still feel hopeful that a fish will find my bait out there underneath all the white foam. And even though we're in February at the moment, I must say I'm really hoping to get a bend in my rod, because this winter, as you've seen, has not always been easy. I had a fantastic time on the River Test back in January, and I have managed some chub from our local River Wey and Blackwater around the Surrey and Hampshire area, but I've also endured a few blanks, and if we could get these rods to rip off at some point today, wow, that'll be a very welcome adrenaline rush. It's a wild day to be on a wild river. Of course, if you're a subscriber to the Magic of Fishing, you'll know that it is a river that I try and get back up to fish whenever I can, despite the fact it's a 2.5 hour drive for me now from Surrey. That's in good traffic. Quite often when I'm up in Sheffield to see family or fish matches, I'll stop off on the way back down. And this weekend has been another special pilgrimage. It's getting towards the end of the season and I knew my time was running short. But if you've seen one or two of my earlier videos on the Trent, you'll know there's one in particular called Life, Death and Fishing the River Trent, which I filmed at the beautiful Gunthorpe Loch last summer. I fished it on a red hot day. It was the hottest day of the year, and despite getting up at 2 in the morning to start fishing in the dark, it wasn't to be that day. There's some real beasts of barbel in that stretch too. But still a very special day, and I know I spent a lot of it as the sun came up that morning thinking about people I'd lost, my family, my mum, who's been gone a few years now, my granddad who taught me to fish and was a real hero of mine as a young lad. And I don't know what it is about the Trent, but I think it's because I used to fish it a lot as a boy and as a young man, and then there was a long break when I moved down south for work and was too busy to fish, too busy working most of the time, but also, you know, raising a family. If you've read the book, you'll know, sadly separated from my first wife. We're the best of friends now, and we're very proud of Fred, our lad, who's nearly a man now. He's be 18 this summer. And then I met someone else eventually and remarried, inherited three stepkids who are all now getting older. The youngest is going to be 16 soon, and the eldest is about to finish university in his 20s. But there was a long period due to that hectic life where I didn't really fish the Trent a lot at all and didn't do too much fishing, not until I rediscovered the magic, probably in my 40s, and that's what led me to write the book and later start this channel. But I think that's why I can feel quite emotional when I come back to the Trent, because it's somewhere I associate with being a kid and being a younger man when death wasn't a familiar concept for me. You know, my granddad was the first person close to me who I lost, and that didn't happen until I was well into my 20s. And later my grandma, this is on my dad's side. I never knew my grandparents on my mum's side. They died sadly when she was young. She was from Bolton. But anyway, whenever I come back to the Trent, I do tend to get a little bit emotional, and it's partly the happy memories of fishing, and I think partly because it takes me back to a more innocent time of life before I had to deal with the fact that you lose people as you go through life, something we all have to accept and deal with and cope with. And I've talked a few times on this channel about that, but yeah, today I'm thinking of someone who was a fan of the channel and who I got to know over the last year, called Graham Keel. And Graham was just a lovely, lovely bloke, a great angler, but someone who loved fishing, all kinds of fishing and all aspects of fishing, just like me. and I met him on the banks of Stockbridge Pond in Surrey, which is a lovely tench pond, an estate lake that's run by Collingham Angling Association, a club that I only joined a year or so ago, and he's a bailiff, or was a bailiff of that club. And we met that evening and had a great chat about fishing. He recognised me, said he loved the channel. We swapped numbers and we stayed in touch, and he loved fishing the River Wey, just as I've done for 25 years since moving south, and we often swapped pictures, catch reports, plans for the next day. And just as I've made a few new friends, some fantastic friends, whether I've met you or just through the community online by running this channel, Graham was certainly one of them. And if you've seen my recent video on the River Test this winter, where I battled through an unbelievable storm that day, a few of us packed in early, it was torrential rain, horrible winds, freezing cold, but Graham invited me on that trip, a one-off trip to the Test that he does on an annual basis with a few of the other bailiffs from Farnham. And despite the weather, we had a fantastic time. I watched that video back the other day, and you can hear me shouting out my excitement to Graham when I catch my first fish there. He was still just up the bank from me when I hooked into my first trout, out of season trout. But he was a lovely man, and I only got to meet him twice in person. And Colin, one of his very good friends, went fishing with him a couple of weeks back, and said that he felt ill. Graham was feeling ill by the end of that trip. He's normally completely healthy and fit. And the long story short is he had a very aggressive form of cancer and passed just a few days ago, just a few days after that fishing trip. And Colin, who I really feel for, knew him much better than me, had to break that news, that horrible news, to the group of anglers who'd been on that trip to the Test, some of whom knew him better than me. But everyone that I've heard from or spoken to on that group during that day has said that he was just a special bloke who loved fishing and loved sharing that love of fishing with other anglers. Was always happy to help, give advice. That's the kind of angler I like. And he's no longer with us. Not an old man, just gone like that. And I know he would have liked to have been here today. I hope he's here in spirit. I'm not a religious type, but he'll certainly be with the hearts and minds of his family and his friends, and even people like me who didn't really get to know him that well, but I would have liked to. So yeah, I've lost someone who I got to know through the channel and was a member of our community, and RIP Graham. I think the lesson we need to take from it all is you never know how long or short life's going to be, and hopefully we all have a good, long, healthy life. But while I'm happy to bring you entertainment and bring you on my fishing trips, for those of you who can't get out or don't want to get out or can't travel to some of the places where I'm lucky enough to come, if you are able to get on the bank, get out there, enjoy it as much as you can, and make as many memories as you can. And I hope that's what I'm going to do today and tomorrow. Lots of other anglers out on the far bank. I'm not sure who runs that, but I've seen a few bivvies on the way up. But would you believe, on Collingham stretch of the Weir field, just one bivvy, one angler, probably fast asleep as I arrived in the dark this morning. But yeah, it's a Sunday, mild weather, and although there is a bit of a storm forecast, it just goes to show that on these famous waters you can come along and get a peg and enjoy your fishing for the price of a day ticket. And I'm sure if you do come here next season, Kai the bailiff will be more than happy to give you advice if you come across him. He's a lovely bloke, really wants to help anglers catch. Kai's turned up in his shorts.
Caught on Thursday, Friday.
He's told me, as my rod's nearly going, I need to be right up there. I've been fishing in the wrong place. So let's get cracking. There goes the myth, the man, the legend. I want to be up towards the weir, casting directly at the weir rather than out into the main flow. So the wind is blasting, but the excitement is back. Not that it ever really went, but you cannot beat local knowledge and someone as friendly and helpful as Collingham's Bailiff. He wants you to catch fish and make memories. Brilliant to see him again. I'm still chuckling because he said he was off to take his young grandson to try and fly a kite, but he felt it might be a little bit too windy even for a kite, and I think he could be right. So that is my boiling paste rod up there on the inside. He said if I do get a fish, I've got to hit and hold and ideally walk back up the beach, try and almost pull it away from snags because they know where they are. So get on the rods fast, or on the rod fast if I do get a bite. So prepare to see me running like Linford Christie if I do get a take. Let's get the other rod sorted. Kai was saying he's met a few people who've seen my previous videos on Collingham, particularly when I had a real red letter day on a certain peg in the 40s, and he said he's had to explain to a lot of people that you have to get the conditions right on there. It's a peg for high water when there's been a lot of rain in the river, and the river's really up by a good few metres, which is how I got it on that day. But again, it's local advice, and if you do come to Collingham and fish the day ticket, if you meet him, he will help you out and he'll try and put you in the right spot, if you're willing to move, that is. I'm happy with both rods. Those lines are parallel out straight towards the weir. A lot less pressure on the line here, and let's see if we can bag ourselves a barbel now. Now we know we're in the right spot. We have got a fish. Oh, I just made it back to the shore. Just made it back to the shore after casting out the maggot rod, and it's gone. Kai told me to get back as quickly as I could, which is what I've done. I think he's out the main danger now, but that was awesome. Just put the rod down in the rest and it buckled over. He said if they were there, they'd be there. And as always, he knows what he's talking about. The wind is howling. And now I need to make sure I'm bringing the net with me. Oh, tricky conditions to fish in. Do not want that to blow away. Let's keep a foot on it. Keep a tight line on this fish. Doesn't feel like a huge heavy fish, but it is my first from CROMWELL WEIR. and therefore I couldn't be much more excited, whatever it is. What's it going to be? It is a barbel. Whoa, and off he goes. Off he goes. Downstream. Oh, he's off. What a killer after all that. Pulled out. That's the danger of using small hooks, of course, and baits, but that's what got me the bite. We go again. They're out there. I'm shaking. Heart's going. Who knew fishing could do this to you? Absolutely trembling, and it was only a small, relatively small barbel. Let's get back out. Oh, what a thrill. It's not like fishing on a pond on a quiet summer's day, I can tell you. Pure drama, whether you're catching or not. Let's see whether we can repeat that. I've waded about as far as I dare. And that's the spot. Try and get back a bit quicker now. It went so quick. As soon as I was putting the rod in the rest, it bent over. I actually felt it through the rod before I saw anything. That is the spot. Well, nice to get a bit of practice with one of the smaller fish, even if he did come off. Oh, my heart is still pumping. Incredible stuff. Let's hope he's not the last. And as always, that first fish, even though we lost it, it gives you so much more confidence. Clearly it was the advice from Kai that got things moving, but still to feel that first fish pulling away in the current really gives you hope, even as the gale really starts to kick in. There could be some more. It's getting dark as well, skies are getting dark, it's late morning, and I've got a feeling the weather might be good for the fishing but not so good for the fishermen. We'll see. In fact, that is the first few spots of rain. Will the brolly survive? That's the question. Now that, my friends, is it's actually rocking the whole chair. I think if it weren't for that big lump of concrete, I wouldn't still be here, or the umbrella wouldn't still be here. I am holding on for dear life here. Flipping heck. I tell you what, weather does not get more fishy, big fishy than this. It's blowing a gale. There's a lot of water coming into the river, it's chucking it down. I tell you what, to put up with this without a bivvy, I think I deserve a barbel, and the conditions feel right for a fish, even if they don't feel very nice for sitting it out in. Oh, I hope you're watching this somewhere nice and warm and dry. very careful when you're wading, of course. Take it steady. Oh, would you believe it? It's a bream. It's a bream. Oh boy, I didn't think it felt very big. Oh folks, what can I say? As the camera's about to get blown over once again, it's my first fish from just below Cromwell Weir at Collingham, and it's a slab. You know me though, any fish is a good fish, and this is a chunky slab. I mean, how they feed and survive out there in that kind of flow amongst the barbel, I don't know, but not quite what we've come for. But he's put a bend in my rod. Let's get him back and try again. I tell you what folks, there's a big difference between seeing a weather forecast on your phone or on the telly and thinking that's going to be pretty hardcore, and actually sitting out in it for several hours. It's been brutal. It does remind me of the last time I was at Collingham when it was blowing a gale and chucking it down most of the day, and that day it drove the fish bonkers. But the river was a good 2, maybe even 3 meters higher at that point than it is today, despite all the rain that's come in the last few hours. Sorry, camera getting blown away again. That's kept my hopes up that we could just nab one before the end, but if not, I'll definitely be back tomorrow and giving it another go. This rain coming in now might push the river up a little bit tomorrow and it promises to include some sunshine tomorrow, so that's a forecast I don't mind reading. But yeah, it's extreme weather to go with the extreme fishing. Even this skimmer's getting blown around in the wind. I've never fished, well I have. The river test a few weeks back was as bad as this, but unbelievable weather. Getting blinded by the rain. You might just be able to see a murmuration of starlings in the distance. Just heading into those far trees. Might come back up the river. As if the skies hadn't been dark enough all day. The sun is going down somewhere in the west as the starlings come streaming past. Stunning. Look at that. Right over my head. Like rain. Incredible. What an ending to the day. Almost makes up for the lack of fish. Or barbel, should I say. Just the one small one hooked and lost. And although now is the right time for barbel in terms of light, I am going to have to start packing up pretty soon. The lights are going on over the far side, but I'll be back. I'll go and get something to eat, get something warm inside me, get to bed nice and early, and as the starlings come streaming over the weir, I'll be back up nice and early, giving it another go. Good morning and welcome back to this mini adventure at Collingham below Cromwell Weir. It may just have been an instant for you folks at home, but I've had a night back at the lovely Airbnb, Little Barn it's called. A lot of drying off of stuff Even had to bring out a second jacket because the one from yesterday refused to dry out. But I had some hot food, went to bed nice and early, and I was back up at 5 AM in the dark. And I must say I'm excited to be back on this legendary peg, 1A below Cromwell Weir. It's not often you get to fish such a famous place as this, and despite the lack of barbel, or lack of barbel landed yesterday, I did feel I had to come back and give it a second go. There's so much river to explore downstream, but chances to fish such places as this are few and far between, and I had to seize my opportunity. I must say it is glorious that there's not much wind about, or not compared to yesterday, and no rain. There's a touch forecast possibly later in the morning, but generally it's going to be a dry day, mild, and I'm hoping, that wonderful word that applies to so much of fishing, I'm hoping that the extra water that went in overnight, continuing mild temperatures, and the fact a bit of bait went in yesterday might give me a chance of a barbel. What I've learned from my time spent after these beautiful fish in the last few years is that they really are quite moody, and when they're in the mood and when they're on the munch, they're quite easy to catch. Doesn't matter what bait you're using, you'll catch them if you're at the right time, at the right place. But conversely, if the conditions aren't right and they're not in the mood, it can be really tricky. And I know a fellow angler downstream in a bivvy had a couple of barbel in the last 24 or 48 hours, so they are feeding, but perhaps not in great numbers. But perhaps today will bring a change in fortune. I'm not going to do as much filming as I did yesterday, of course. You've got a good feel for the place, but it is exciting to be back here. And of course, if we can catch some fish, there will be some more filming to do. So thanks for sticking with me. As we know, fishing's not all about catching, but it would be nice to get one today. Now I can wade confidently because I know the bottom well from yesterday. Actually stay to the left of the line of the left-hand rod, cast over it so I can stay nearer the bank. This is about as far as I can get safely. We'll punch it out. Hand the rod back over the other line, and then pay out a bit of line as I make my way back. And this will be the drill for the rest of the day. Let's see whether I can hand him out. The net's way back. Oh, he's pulled himself off and hooked himself off. Only just hooked, but it's a fish. Of course, the hope with catching something like that is that A, it's a sign that fish of any kind are on the feed, and B, if I get some more bait out there and there are some more bream on the feed, that activity may interest some barbel. But lovely just to see the rod tips, be able to watch the rod tips and get that sense of whether there's anything happening or not. One thing I didn't bother drying out was the chair. Obviously wading out all the time, sitting back down in wet waders, it's pretty soaked, but can't feel it through the waders, so that'll have to be a job for when I get home. There we go, another Trent bream, the feistiest bream in the country. 2 fish in the first 2 or 3 chucks at least. Let's get him back. Oh, it's an interesting and active start. If anyone's thinking, you know, bream, that means there's no barbel around, John, you're in the wrong spot. I actually had quite a few bream during my previous 3 days on Collingham further downstream, and plenty of barbel too, so in this river they can cohabit, and I'm certainly fishing into some pretty powerful water. You can feel the muscle in them compared to a normal bream from the lake. Completely different animals. No further action since the last bream, but Kai's just been to pay me a visit. Good on him. He knows this stretch of river like the back of his hand, and although he's not fished it a lot lately, he's continually talking to anglers. In fact, he told me the chap further down fishing in the bivvy, he's been here a few days and a few nights, but he's now had 10 fish, some decent ones amongst them, and not all during the night either. So that's given me some hope, but he's also just told me an amazing Trent tale. What a mighty river this is. He said the guy down there, fishing pretty strong barbel gear like I am, just had a fish on for 40 minutes that he's just lost. Couldn't shift it off the bottom, and Kai thinks it could have been a massive catfish. But you just get those kind of experiences on the Trent, not me necessarily, but you hear about those kinds of experiences. It's a wild river, you've no idea what's in here. But Kai also agreed with a few of my own thoughts, which is a rising river. I'm now, I've moved back a second time, it's up a few inches, and he said that might just trigger the barbel into a bit of a feeding spell. But he also agreed with a few of my ideas. First of all, that the bream is no bad thing, that the barbel will often see a shoal of bream feeding away, and they'll move in to investigate and push them out of the way. But he's also given me some new tips as well. He's on one rod now, I'm on a single pellet, straight lead, and he's told me to whack it as far as I can up towards the weir, and that's what I'm fishing now on one rod, just a single bait whacked as far as I can up towards the weir. And he said, if they're not in evidence further back towards me, they might often be right up there. But he's also said feeding can bring on a feeding spell as well, so it's not just time of day and light conditions and river levels. He said, the fish are in this pool. He did tell me one of his mates got drawn on here in a match one day and blanked. He said it's not always fantastic, especially in winter. We are in February, and he said it's not as guaranteed as it can be in some of this spot, which made me feel a bit better. But he also said, there's a lot of fish in here, and they are here, and to keep that feeder rod going in, he said fish it like you're in a match, cast every 5 or 10 minutes, get that feed going in, and sometimes that can either pull them in or just make them start feeding. And that's nice to know that, even on a difficult day, I'm going to keep really busy now, lots of casts, wading in and out, get rid of all this bucket of bait before it's time to go home, and then I will have, I feel like I'll have done my best. I'll have taken all the advice and hopefully fish my socks off. So if we do get a fish, it'll be well earned. But it was really nice for him to come and visit and give me a bit of his old wisdom. Talking of which, time for another cast. Well, it wouldn't be a trip to Collingham, would it? Or another day, a second day on Collingham without getting the brolly. out. Deja vu. Home sweet home. Oh, I've just had to come right out in a torrential downpour, I think for another bream. Oh, it's that heavy, I'm going to have to try and get back under the brolly. Oh God. I've never had to do this before, but actually playing a fish from underneath the brolly. And I should be out there on the gravel, but it's just tipping it down. I've not even got my coat on. But what a slab that is. Trent beast. Definitely best bream I've had from the mighty river for some time. It's a good 5-6 pound, might be knocking on 6 that reef, just over. A right old slab in the pouring rain. Give me a bit of excitement, but still not the barbel we're after. Let's get him back. I really didn't think today was going to be another day where everything gets soaked all over again, including me. Oh, that was torrential. It's just lightening off a little bit now. Bit of blue sky over there. It's not in the forecast. What are these forecasters doing? Just look at this. The calm after the storm. Almost feels like spring. I can feel the warmth of the sun on my face. Might help dry things out a bit. Costadel, Collingham. Oh folks, I think we've got one. Definitely a better fish. Just managed to pull it away from the main snaggy area, or where Kide warned me there's some snags. I don't know for sure if this is a barbel, but it's definitely a decent feeling fish. If it's a bream, it's a bloody good one. Took some line to begin. Oh, please. In the sunshine. It's coming round. Oh, that's a bit more like it. Yeah, now it's got level with me. Oh, please. I can't tell you how much I've wanted one. Just being on this peg with the new rods, so much effort. I'm definitely going to need the net. I have to do some backwards manoeuvring here. Yeah, this is feeling more barbel-like now. It's in the flow near me. Oh, it is. It's only a little one, but it's a barbel. Get in. Get in. I've really worked for that. Well, it's not even that little either. Blimey. A lot bigger than I thought. Oh. I just saw the head come up. Yes, that is fantastic. Oh, let's get it unhooked. It's much better than I thought. Ooh, just right in the corner. Oh, see the two remaining maggots. What a belly. He's a fat one. I'll tell you what, we'll give him a good rest before we weigh him and have a look. Let's give him a good few minutes before we have a look. Wait to see him kicking again. That, my friends, is one of the most magical barbel of my life. All £8 4 ounce of him, way bigger than I first thought when I saw him through the water. Sometimes they go the opposite way and come out smaller than you thought. This is the opposite. £8.4 of sheer River Trent CROMWELL WEIR barbel in the sun. Happy man. What a trip. What a cherry on the trip. Let's get him rested and straight back. And now we give him a second rest in this clear water over the gravels of Collingham. Lovely broad back in the sunshine. Gonna give him a good few minutes. Wait till he's kicking again. Oh, my knees are trembling. Everything's trembling. At last, from the famous 1A, we've done it. Wow. Yesterday I was feeling emotional for being back on the Trent as always. Now I'm feeling emotional for being back on the Trent, but for having kept the faith, having followed Kai's advice and just kept plugging away. I've been casting, wading, you know, with nothing but the bream to show for it. And then just when you'd expect things to be a little bit tough, the sun high in the sky, or I suppose it's getting a bit lower now, but still very bright and blue. It's about 4 o'clock. Nod, whack. The feeder, the maggot feeder had only just, well, ground bait and maggot feeder had only just really touched down. I'd had chance to wade back and put it in the rest, which was about the same as the small one that I lost yesterday. As soon as I tightened up to the feeder, it started going. And I just had to text Kai just to let him know how chuffed I was with that, and a few other people. But oh, a beautiful thing when hope pays off and actually materialises into something as special as that. Now not just a special place, but somewhere I've managed to finally work out, and even on a tough week or day, get one out, and a nice one. The sun is just going down over the horizon, over the other side of CROMWELL WEIR. What a magnificent sight. It's been a real honour to fish this famous peg in all kinds of weathers, condition. I've honestly got to say it feels like spring at the moment, and although I've got a few layers on, it's really feeling like it's in touching distance now. Can't believe it's still February, but I've got out, done some more winter fishing, and I've been back on the mighty River Trent, my beloved Trent, and it's not let me down. It's not been easy at times, but what a fantastic second adventure to Collingham. I hope you've enjoyed it just as much at home. I really couldn't be much happier. In fact, I'd like to thank a few people. I'd like to thank David Aylward. He runs a local, or he's the head bailiff of a local club back down in Surrey, and he really first showed me how to catch barbel a few years ago now, 5 or 6 years back, initially in small rivers, and that really got me the bug. Secondly, Neil Waits really helped me understand how to fish big rivers like the Thames and the Trent, and of course Kai. None of this would have been possible. None of the 5 days that I've now spent on the magnificent Collingham AA stretch of the tidal Trent would have been possible without Kai. Yeah, I could have had a go, and yeah, I've got plenty of years behind me fishing this river, but not to catch the barbel like I've managed to get on to over the 5 days I've spent here. His advice has been selfless and indispensable, so big thanks to Kai. Huge thanks to you folks at home as always. I've got a feeling this is going to make for quite an epic feature-length film, and I hope for those of you who've stuck with me till the end it's felt worth it and you've really enjoyed it. I love all your comments, all your support. Can't believe we've recently passed 30,000 subscribers, so keep those comments coming, and big love to you all at home. Last but not least, I'd like to dedicate that barbel and indeed this whole trip to Graham, and I'm really sorry he's no longer with us, but he made some magic memories fishing and a lot of friends, and I'm sure he's going to be massively missed by all those who knew him, especially those who fished with him. So RIP Graham. Stay safe all of you, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon on the bank.